Hello everyone, welcome back to UPSC Warriors channel by Unacademy. This is Soundarya. If you have not subscribed to the Warriors channel, please subscribe immediately. From today onwards, we are going to discuss MCQs from both Hindu as well as the Indian Express newspaper. So today we are going to discuss the 23rd December newspapers. So the first question for discussion is GST Council. Consider the following statements. The GST Council should meet at least 4 times a year as mandated under Article 279A. So this is the first statement, and statement 2 reads, the Union government has higher weightage with respect to voting on matters before the council as compared to the weightage of all states put together. So this particular statement is talking about the powers of the Union government versus the state government when it comes to making decisions through GST Council. So why this question was framed? It is because the Andhra Pradesh government has made a recommendation to the council to allow it to include a cess on disaster relief. Now, let's try to understand this question. Statement 1 is factual. It says Article 279 mandates 4 times meeting. This is incorrect. And statement 2 is again not correct. Why? Because the voting power is not designed in this way. So, what is the correct answer is neither 1 nor 2. So, this particular article 279A talks about the GST Council, right? So, it talks about the GST Council's composition. It talks about the GST Council's function. It talks about the GST Council's powers. That is the voting powers, right? So, talking about the composition, we know that GST Council comprises of Union Finance Minister, right? And then we also have Minister of State in charge of finance or revenue. We also have ministers nominated by the states, that is the representatives of these states. In addition to that, we also have a permanent invitee from the Central Board of Excise and Customs, and we also have an ex officio secretary. Clear? So this is all about the composition of the GST Council. So here the Article 279A does not specify the frequency of the meetings required to be done by these members, right? So the GST Council is done as per the needs and the requirements, but they ensure that they at least meet 4 times in a year. So according to which the statement 1 is not correct. And talking about the functions, so this GST Council is something responsible for, making recommendations or making decisions about bringing any type of changes to the tax structure, be it increasing the tax slabs or decreasing the tax slabs, adding any new items into GST or taking any item out of GST, or talking about the tax exemptions, or even deciding the threshold. So anything related to the GST laws, its implementations, everything is decided by the GST Council. GST Council is again going to address some of the special provisions granted to the states with respect to GST. So anything that is going to, change, or anything that is going to happen with GST will be decided by this GST Council. And how the decisions will be made here? Mostly the decisions will be made through consensus, right? But voting is also there. If at all there is any proposal which is put to vote, then what is the voting power of the union government and the state government here? The union government will have the votes, okay, which is going to have the weightage of 1/3 of the total votes polled by the council, right? So what about the state governments? State governments will have the vote of the state governments will have the weightage of 2/3 of the total votes. Clear? So if at all, if there is any proposal which needs to be passed, in that case, the proposal should have total weighted votes of all the members present and voting greater than 3/4, right, for the proposal to get accepted. So these are all some of the informations that you have to know about GST Council. By going with this voting power, we can say that statement 2 is also not correct. So what is the correct answer here? It is neither 1 nor 2. So this is the answer for this question. Now let's move on to the second question. But before that, there is very important news that you have to know. Unacademy is going to conduct its last, civil services championship test for the year 2024, where you will be able to get up to 90% scholarship, right? So this is again something going to be very exciting. Why? Because in addition to this 90% scholarship, you will also get exciting rewards even from the top educators of Unacademy. And if you look at this slide, these are some of the batches which are popular in the Plus platform of Unacademy, taken by the top educators of India. And this is the schedule of the optional courses that we have. In addition to that, we also have free UPSC mock interview program that is again going to be conducted totally for free of cost. So this is the right time for you if you are someone who's willing to appear in the next year. Let's get back to the second question now. Operation Sankalp has seen in news sometimes aimed at prohibition of cross-border illegal migrants and refugees, bringing back nationals stranded in war zones safely to India, assured safety and security of Indian vessels in the Gulf region, financial assistance to SAARC nations in times of financial crisis. So what is the correct answer here? The correct answer is assuring safety and security of Indian vessels in the Gulf region. So this Operation Sankalp is a maritime security operation launched by the Indian Navy, right? So as to ensure the safe passage of vessels through this particular Gulf of Oman. Why so? It is very important region. This Gulf of Oman is the only passage for the ships from the Arabian Sea as well as the Indian Ocean to reach the Persian Gulf. And that region alone, is known to have an estimated, oil reserves of 2/3 of the world, right? So it is again going to have an estimated natural gas reserves of 1/3 of the total reserves of the world. So this particular, region is very important not just for India but also for other nations, especially when it comes to the security. So because of having, so much of frequent attacks by the pirates, this operation was conducted, and in this year, March 2024, the 100 days of successful operation under, Operation Sankalp was carried by the Indian Navy. So you have to know that this is something which is about assuring safety and security of Indian vessels in the Gulf region. So this is enough for this topic. And now let's try to read this question. With reference to the telecommunications procedures and safeguards for lawful interception of messages rules 2024, consider the following statements. The rules mandate disciplinary actions against any misuse of powers of interception. The new rules authorizes officers not below the Joint Secretary level as the competent authority to order the interception of any message. So what is the correct answer here? The correct answer is option 2 only. Statement 1 is not correct. So what is this question talking about? This question is talking about the recent rules that was notified with respect to the telecommunications procedures, right? And this rules was notified to supersede the earlier rule, that is 419 of the Telegraphs Order 1951, right? So what these rules are aimed at? These rules are aimed at preventing, the misuse of powers when it comes to interception of messages, or even paving way for proper interception procedures when it comes to, intercepting any of the communications so as to ensure national security and maintain the public order. So you know about the Telegraph Act of 1895, right? So this particular act mandates the central government to take control of any telegraph in case of what? In case of any emergency situation, or in case of any threat to national security, etc. So it also mandates the government to come up with certain rules so as to regulate these particular telecommunications in the country. So this particular act grants the government also the power to intercept the messages if in case it is needed, so as to deal with any kind of emergency situations or to maintain public order, right? So going by this provision, the government has the power to intercept any communication, to intercept any messages that we send, right? But it cannot do it all the time, only when the need arises, only when the emergency situation, clear, arises, the interception of messages is allowed. Again, who is competent to order for the interception of messages? According to this particular rules of 2024, it is the Union, okay? It is the Union Home Secretary or the Secretary in charge of the state, Secretary in charge of the state, okay, of the state government's home department are the competent authority to order for the interception of the messages. If in case, if there is any unavoidable circumstances, then any secretary not below the level of the joint secretary can what? Can order for the interception of the messages. So these are the things that you have to know about the competent authority who is having the power to intercept the messages. So going by this provision, the statement 2 is correct, clear? But there is one drawback in this particular rule, that there is no provision made for, coming up with any kind of punitive actions whenever there is incidences of misuse of power to intercept the messages, right? So what you have to remember, there is no provision made for making any actions or ordering any kind of disciplinary measures so as to check this misuse of power of interception of messages. This is one of the main concern of this particular bill, right? So then the correct answer would be option 2 only. So this is the information that you have to know from this particular provision. Now moving again, so which of the following sectors are entitled to get priority sector lending by the banks? This is important because the Confederation of Indian Industry recently made a recommendation, this was in your Indian Express article, to include some of the sectors to the priority sector list, right? So that is why it is important. Now look at the options here. Which of the following sectors are entitled to get priority sector lending? Export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, agriculture. So what is the correct answer? It is a very easy question. The correct answer is all the statements are correct, right? You know what is meant by priority sector lending? So priority sector lending is something which is mandated by the RBI so as to enable the commercial banks as well as the foreign banks and the cooperative banks in India to allot certain percentage of their loan distribution to the priority sectors which otherwise find it difficult to get loans, or sometimes these particular sectors are not properly channelized so as to have the financial services. This is the main objective of having priority sector lending. So now the RBI have these sectors as the priority sectors. We have export, we have education, we have housing, we have social infrastructure, we have agriculture. In addition to that, we also have renewables, right? So these are some of the priority sectors which should also get some amount of assured loans according to this priority sector lending by the RBI. Now, the Confederation of Indian Industry wants to add some sectors to it, like digital infrastructure. So it also wants to include green initiatives. It also wants to include innovative manufacturing, etc. So the reason being, now the agriculture's contribution to GDP is decreased, but the priority sector lending target of agriculture still remain highest, that is at 18%, right? So in order to tackle this particular gap, now since the demand for these things are also on the rise, Confederation of Indian Industry wants to include these regions into the priority sector lending, right? So going by that, the answer is all the above. Now let's get to the last question for today's discussion. So this is with reference to the Confederation of Indian Industry. Consider the following statements. It is a non-profit, non-governmental organization founded in the year 1895. Okay, so for 2024 to 2025, CII has identified globally competitive India, partnerships for sustainable and inclusive growth as its theme. So what is the correct answer here? The correct answer is both 1 and 2. So what you have to know about this Confederation of Indian Industry? It is a non-profit and non-governmental organization. So it includes members from, even the public sector enterprises. It includes members from SMEs. Even it includes members from MNCs also. So what is the main objective of this Confederation of Indian Industry? Is to, work closely with the government in shaping the policies of the government, in giving so much of inputs to the government in such a way that it is able to increase the efficiency of the industries, in transforming the Indian economy, in making them engaged so as to contribute to the overall development of the country. So this particular Confederation of Indian Industry has some dedicated institutions in place working with international collaborations so as to come up with this kind of recommendations, and they also make sure that the government is taking up these recommendations made by them, right? So this is the power of the Confederation of Indian Industry. So it is working in multiple dimensions so as to, increase the efficiency, so as to increase the engagement of the industries, come up with innovative solutions to the problems faced by the industries, ensure the fair competition that the industries must have within themselves, and also give some kind of technological support, knowledge sharing, everything, etc. So this is all about the Confederation of Indian Industry. I hope all these questions are clear. If you have any doubt, please drop a message in the comment section. See you all in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.